No way. Now this might sound super pretentious, but I've been really into scones and tea. It's like not the best thing in the world, not the sweetest thing in the world, but it's like subtle and good. But you just have a scone and some tea in the morning, and for some reason everything just kind of feels right. So just as like a precursor to this video, this is the first story-driven ad that I have ever made, and it is something that I feel like can be a little bit daunting, so I kind of wanted to just give the inspiration, where it came from, how I put it together for my first time, and then also what I learned and took away from it, because there's so many mistakes that I made, and I kind of just want to get it out there so that I can grow as a creator, and so that anybody else that wants to do this can kind of learn from my mistakes. So starting off with the concept, idea, and inspiration behind it, I think that, like most everyone knows, creativity is just an idea built on top of an already existing idea. And for me, I got my inspiration from Danny Gewirtz and all of these amazing shorts that he has been creating. So I really just wanted to make a really dumbed down, simple version of what he's already created. This was really important for me to make as simple as I could possibly make it. I still kind of screwed it up, but I think that it's easy in film to get ahead of yourself, and I wanted to try and guarantee that I would not get overwhelmed and angry and anxious and want to quit the project. I think this is because it's really easy to see an amazing creator who's been doing it for years, and you kind of watch it and sometimes you're like, okay, yep, I can do this. And you kind of just have to accept the reality that you can't. So you kind of have to make or cut some corners in some places so that you can play to your strengths, I guess is the best way to say it. So the other inspiration behind the whole roller skate thing came from watching my girlfriend Maria go through the process of seeing girls on TikTok and being really excited about what they were doing, then proceeding to go buy skates that were all sold out everywhere because everybody was freaking out about it, and then sucking really bad and trying their hardest to just get better and better and better by skating every day until eventually they became good and proficient at what they're doing, or what Maria was doing. For some reason, I just thought, you know what, that can be a relatable film. It's accessible because we live together, and I thought that she would make a good hero because I'm sure a ton of other people went through the same thing, and they saw roller skating and thought it looked cool. They had nothing to do, so they bought roller skates and fell in love with it. So I ended up scripting a short storyboard on Milanote and tried to figure out a style that I'd go for. I took some inspiration from the shows The Queen's Gambit and Normal People. I don't think it came out that way. I tried my best to. And that was mostly for the lighting and composition. And then I tried to find music with disco elements, since that was kind of in brand with Moonlight Roller, the brand that I was trying to do the spec ad for. I initially started using MusicBed. They told me that I could not use their music even for a spec ad unless I had the business plan, which is $1,000. So I ended up using Artless Music, which was okay to use, but I catered it towards the MusicBed music that I had chosen, so that was a little bit difficult. And then I just took the story structure from Danny Gewirtz's baseball cinematic and tried to just mesh them all together, and hopefully came up with something that was cohesive. Now, I know that it's hard for some people to come up with an idea or concept and then execute it fully, so I just wanted to give out my own experience so that people can kind of see that they don't have to be ashamed of taking elements from everything that they see around them, even copying some things, and then making it their own, because that's simply what everybody does. So if you have any other questions about where I got inspiration from, please feel free to ask. On to what I learned from creating this video. I am a perfectionist by nature, to the point where I can be overly critical sometimes, and it can be crippling. But that is not the point of this. The point is to kind of analyze where I went wrong on my first try. And it's in hopes of me getting better. I think it's important for anybody to do this, but also to kind of give insight for other people who want to create something like this, and it's daunting. So if I can kind of give out my mistakes and what I would do different, hopefully it can help other people avoid that. So I'm gonna just start with the beginning, and that was the pre-production, which is easily the most important part and cannot be overlooked. So I thought personally that this is the furthest I had gone with pre-production. I thought I storyboarded enough, that I found inspiration, that I scouted spots. But when time came to actually film the project, I still felt underprepared. And this was even to the extent that I filmed an entire scene that did not make the film, and that was just poor planning on my part. I did not properly script it into the video. I just thought it would work out, and it ended up not working out, and I think that that mistake could have been avoided with better pre-production. Now, if it's just a visual film, like a visual ad, then pre-production does not matter as much. It's a lot easier to kind of just wing it. But if there is any story elements to it, you need to have a good pre-production. And I think that if it does not have good pre-production, the story will suffer, as I believe that mine did. So I personally think that I needed to have higher peaks and valleys in my story, which means, moments where things seemed a little bit like hopeless, and then things that were, really exciting, that led to like a really dramatic moment. I mean, not extreme, but more peaks and valleys. And I think that I needed to create more tension in the film. Now, this is okay because it's a small little commercial, but it's definitely something that I noticed as I was editing. Now, onto the production side, I do think that everything was only as difficult as it was for me because Maria, she had work like everyone else, and we were only able to film after 5 o'clock, so we ended up only having about an hour to an hour and a half to film, unless it was a nighttime shot, and because of that, everything ended up feeling a little bit rushed. On the technical side, I wanted to shoot this film as much as I could in low light because I just think low light is more cinematic and interesting. The problem is good low light is significantly harder to achieve, and this is because most of the time you have to shape all of it. With natural light, if it's sunset, it's naturally going to give you a nice light, but when everything is completely dark and you are using all artificial light, you have to shape every single piece of it, and that can just, it sucks. It just sucks. Now, this is a little bit more prominent if you have a camera like mine, which I think a lot of people do if they're on a budget. So I am shooting with a smaller sensor size. I have an APS-C camera, and it's even worse if you have a micro four thirds camera. And what ends up happening is you have to get all of your exposure almost perfect. And if you do not, then there is going to be a certain amount of grain, or your image will start breaking up a little bit while you are coloring it. So lastly is post-production, and this was definitely not the most difficult post-production I've ever done, but there were a lot of weaknesses that I spotted while I was in the editing process. The first one of them is something that people don't really think about as an actual skill, but I struggled with finding good music that can match the tone and energy of each scene. And I think that this could have helped me create those peaks and valleys in the storyline. And so if I could kind of go back in time or do this again, I would take even more time finding music that matched the energy of what was going on. Now, the most frustrating part for me easily was the color grading. For this video, I really thought that I was going to get into this and do the best color grading that I've ever done before, But as I got into it, I kind of just realized I was still just swimming in this big ocean. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to color. And this is partially maybe because I am a little bit colorblind, but I think regardless, it is so frustrating to find the little subtleties in color, because you're looking for colors in midtones, shadows, and highlights, and you have to navigate that throughout each image. And eventually your eyes just start to, I don't know, blank out. It just gets overwhelming and you just don't know what to do. So I don't think I did a particularly bad job at color, but I think that while I was creating this film, it really just emphasized my lack of knowledge in color and color grading, and it made me want to get better at it. So if you're creating a film like this, definitely don't think of it as an afterthought. Maybe beforehand, if you want to take the easy route, maybe kind of find some LUTs that you want to use so that you can, light the scenes right for those LUTs, or practice color grading on like individual clips so that you're not just kind of stumbling through the color grading process when you're actually editing the film you've made. So if you're creating a short, I hope that this gives you a little bit of something to watch out for, or if you've already created a film, I hope that this analysis helps you analyze your own films so that you can continue to improve and get better as well. I'm sorry if this was a little bit scatterbrained. I really just wanted to try and riff this so that I can feel more connected to the camera, which means I feel more connected to an audience. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.